Welcome to the Sci-Fi Diner Classic. This is episode 19, and I'm one of your hosts, Scott Herzog.
And hello, I am Mallos McLaughlin.
And again, these classics are really meant to share interviews that we did, about 2 years ago, maybe a little bit less in some cases, but interviews with actors that are still doing stuff. And talk about a man that is still doing stuff, right. It's Mr. Dominic Keating.
Yes, Lieutenant Malcolm Reed from Star Trek Enterprise.
Yeah, so we were very excited to get this interview, and I know, Miles, you were excited to talk to him.
I was. I'm a lover of all things Star Trek, and he was fantastic at interview and as a guest at the convention. If he was very fan friendly, so if he's at a convention and you're a fan of Star Trek Enterprise, I encourage you to go up there and say hi to him. You'll get your picture with him.
Make sure to bring your head soap with you to get him to sign it.
Right. Yes, he is also the Vidal Sassoon guy from commercials.
There you go. But he's continued to do stuff. Most notably, if you bought the Diablo 3 video game, you have heard his voice. Mm-hmm. He voices the man Templar.
Okay.
I haven't played the video game yet, so I can't really attest to that. But,
right.
And he is rumored to be in The Hobbit, The Unexpected Journey, or There and Back Again. Now, mind you, it is rumored.
That's what IMDb
He's supposedly,
is
the IMDb, which is always telling us the truth. But he plays Gallium. So I guess The Unexpected Journey and There and Back Again are the two parts of The Hobbit. But Gallion is the name, so we don't know if there's any confirmation on that yet. And maybe I don't know if we can find that out. But anyways, he's been in Sons of Anarchy, CSI, Sherlock Holmes video, and there's a lot of stuff he's done.
Heroes a while back.
Yeah, Heroes a while back. So he's definitely a busy man, still working actor.
Right.
And anything else we want to say about him before we go into the interview? Where do we do this interview at?
We did this interview at Shore Leave
32?
Yeah, 2010.
2010, so it's 32 because it's 34 this year.
Right.
So 2010, it was our second Shore Leave, and he was, again, a gracious host.
Fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely to have on. And so we hope you enjoy this interview that we do with Mr. Dominic Keating. Welcome back to the Sci-Fi Diner. In a few moments, we are going to be bringing you our interview with Dominic Keating. Now, this was done at Shore Leave. It's one of the first interviews we're bringing you from Shore Leave, other than the live stuff that we did there. And this is one of the interviews. We only did a few of these, 2 or 3 interviews that we did actually from the floor of the convention. The rest were done in other rooms or at a bar or something like that. So you're going to hear a little bit of con noise in the background, but hey, we like that because it makes it somewhat authentic. And this is where we interviewed Dominic Keating. Miles, what did you think of the interview that we had with this man?
I enjoyed it. He was definitely a lot of fun to talk to. Definitely not like his character from the show. His character was kind of a little on a stiff side. But he was there to have fun. He was very gracious to the fans. It was not uncommon to see him, get people ask to get a picture with him, and he was, totally cool with that. He was there to judge the masquerade costume contest. So he was very involved. In the convention. He wasn't just in his room whenever he was done. He was. I saw him all over the place.
And that's something to be said for. There were certain actors that were unavailable except at very pre-designated times, and he was one of the ones that was available a lot of the time. Him, Kevin Sorbo, and Edward James Olmos had a lot of availability. If you were a fan and wanted to meet these guys, there was no reason you couldn't have, because they were always at their tables, always signing, and always very gracious and willing to chat with you as a person. And so very cool. Very cool. And he was one of these guys that we would put in there. So, well, Miles, you kind of introduced him. So anything else you want to say about this man before we jump into the interview?
No, I think it's said. I will say this to our listeners: if you haven't been to one of these fan-run sci-fi conventions, I strongly encourage you to check them out. This is a place you get to see some of your favorite actors involved in sci-fi and get to meet them up and close and personal. For Scott and I had a chance to do that that weekend. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, yeah. And it is a little bit different because we actually sit down and interview them. But even if you aren't there as a podcaster and interviewing these people, they still seem very approachable to the other guests. So,
very much so.
But, all right, well, let's launch into the interview.
Are these armed with photonic warheads?
Photonic? I'm not familiar with that.
I'm afraid our weapons are somewhat more sophisticated than yours.
This technology must seem pretty antiquated to you.
Where I come from, antiquated can be very quaint.
Is that how you see us? Quaint?
And charming. What sort of power source do these use?
Cerium microcells. I suppose that's very quaint, too.
Not at all. We charge our weapons the same way.
Maybe you'd like to see the face cannon assembly.
Please.
How view. It has multi-phasic emitters and a maximum yield of 80 gigajoules.
Impressive.
So it's so cramped in here.
Don't be. I wanted to get a little closer to you all day.
Really?
I was hoping to spend some intimate time with you. Maybe we could sleep together tonight.
On Earth, it's customary to ask a woman to dinner first, before spending the night with her.
It's very different on Viscia. It's only when a woman enjoys her intimate time with a man that she'll join him for dinner.
All ears.
All ears.
Excellent.
All right.
Sci-fi fans, we're at Shorely 32. If you're fans of shows such as Buffy The Vampire Slayer, Prison Break Heroes, then you've seen our guests' work. If you're a fan of Star Trek Enterprise, then you'll be delighted to know we are talking to the man who brought the character Lieutenant Malcolm Reed to life, Mr. Dominic Keating. Mr. Keating, thank you for taking time to speak with us in the Sci-Fi Diner podcast.
Pleasure. It's all mine.
And
I wanted to do some sound effects there for Buffy. And Enterprise was going to be, was it such a long time?
There you go.
There you go.
it's a popular drinking song at Star Trek Experience, I hear.
Say that again?
It's a popular drinking song at the old Star Trek
It is, I'm sure it is. Yeah.
I do want to talk about Enterprise, but we're also fans of Heroes. Did you enjoy
I've been on that.
you played the character Will, and you end up getting killed violently by Kristen Bell's character.
Now, let me get that straight.
If I'm correct.
Did she kill me? No, I don't think she killed me.
Okay.
No, I never actually died, but Peter did, zap me to the wall when I shot him. Mm-hmm. Fair dues. Really.
Right.
If you shoot a guy and he's got telekinetic powers, you might want to zap him to the wall. No, it was Kristen Bell came in and she was the sort of, the mob factor going after Peter, wasn't she? Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's as much as I know, really. After that, I really couldn't tell you anything else. No, but she didn't kill me. I remember the last scene I shot with her.
Okay.
Originally, they cast someone else, and then they recast her. How about that?
Well, her part, they had another person?
They had another girl, and then I guess, for whatever reason, they decided Miss Bell was going to be it, and
You want to take care of these
inside information there.
Thank you.
Works great. So Heroes.
Why not? At a Star Trek convention.
Mm-hmm. Right. Very good.
Be a hero! Yeah, what do you want to know about Heroes? I don't really know much about it.
What was it, 4 episodes?
Well, we were slated for 12. And Holt. God bless Holt. He's got a show now, so he doesn't really care. It's coming out on, it might be FX. It's about a boxer, ex-boxer that's collecting for the mob. Holt McCannley. Check out, it'll be a good show. Cracking actor. But he went head-to-head with one of the writer-producers, Gary.
How you doing?
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
You were on our flight, I think.
What's that?
Yesterday coming over, you were on the flight. Your name was Paul. Did you get on the flight yesterday at lunchtime? At 10 o'clock?
No, I missed the flight.
You did. They called your name.
They had 2 accidents on the 405 coming down, and I missed they have a mandatory 45-minute check-in, and I missed it by 5 minutes.
They called your name, and I was looking around.
Yeah, I probably would have been on that plane with you and a bunch of other people.
And Kevin.
Oh, Kevin was on the same.
Kevin was on the same plane.
Well, c'est la vie.
Did you have a good time on Heroes?
You know, not bad, all things considered. Yeah, some shows can be a little tricky. Peter...
I thought it was a fun part.
It was a fun part. I was just saying, they nixed us because Holt, he went head-to-head with one of the writer-producers who'd written out this particular episode. About one line in one scene, and we got clipped the next week, baby. Yeah, well, they were the height of their, we can do anything, we're saving the world, And it was actually the second season that brought them to their knees.
Right.
And they all went down the tube. And they did too. And Steve, was it Mr. Kring? What's his name?
Yeah, Tim Kring.
Tim Kring. Nice man, actually. Of all the guys, he was the guy that was. But he had a bunch of kobolds that were tricky.
No, really, they say, Heroes could have probably ended after season 1 or 2 and been okay. But they kept dragging it on, and the story just seemed to wander too much.
Yeah.
They're talking about miniseries. Miniseries proposed to revolutions.
Well, I won't be in it.
Yeah, no.
Good luck to him.
Yeah. All right, well, let's talk Star Trek.
Let's talk Star Trek. When you play the part of Malcolm Reed, what inspiration did you draw on your character?
Curtains. I'm very good. I thought I was the interior designer on the ship. But, Captain, we need some new curtains in the ready room. They really are too tired. Inspirationally, I suppose, given that I was the armory officer, I actually harkened back to a day when, as a 17-year-old, I nearly joined the army in England. I come from an army background, and my mother's father, my grandfather, had fought in 2 world wars and was an officer. He was given the OBE, blah blah blah, and that's really where I went. I went to young Dominic as an under officer cadet in my school army brigade, and then a little, for the first time in my acting career, I actually matched that up with a good dose of just me, quite frankly. So yes, there was a certain hearkening to a time when I thought I might be that guy, and then I let my own humour and personality come through Malcolm Reed eventually, which I'd never really had I'd never been series regular in this respect before, so it occurred to me quite quickly, thank heavens, in the first season that I might do that, and it might actually just, it wasn't part of the 3-line proviso that they'd given you. But you know what? Let's make him a real 3-dimensional character. And so, yes, he is a button-down, stiff upper lip Brit, but it doesn't mean he's not got a sense of humour and some flaws, and there are contradictions.
Sure,
let's give him some contradictions.
So they let you develop the character.
They let me do that. And I think, given that I was English, that gave me a little bit more wriggle room than ordinarily they might have given another American actor playing something that they'd written 4-line by line. I got to be able to ring up the writing staff and go, you know what, an English guy wouldn't say that. He'd say these 3 speeches instead. And they fell for it.
Yeah. So they gave you some freedom with the character.
Yes, yeah, they did. Yeah, kindly so.
Now, were you a fan of Star Trek before you did Enterprise?
Yeah, I watched it as a kid. I'm a little older than my youthful looks below. I grew up watching it. The devil. Sold my soul. Yeah, I watched it as a kid growing up. And then didn't really, can't say, after that initial phase as an 8, 9, 10-year-old went, it's not something I stayed with, and I moved on to the High Chaparral. Such a TV tart that I am. They were all boys living on that ranch, huh? Cute mother, though. Anyway, then when I came to America, I did look at some Next Generation, just simply because it had an English actor in the lead part, and that grabbed my attention. But yeah, not an aficionado by any stretch of the imagination by the time I got Enterprise. And then went back and looked at a little bit of all of the shows, just to sort of ground myself in what we were going to do.
Well, you kind of touched a little on this, but what else did you like about? What did you like about playing Malcolm Reed?
Well, so many things really. I mean, just being on a big Hollywood set, shooting at Paramount, it was, a treat. We shot on the same stages that Alfred Hitchcock shot Rear Window, and across the road was Stage 9 where they did Sunset Boulevard, and I walked through an alley every day called the Godfather Alley, because that's where Ed Harris, who played the lawyer, when he flies to Hollywood to make it right with the producer that won't put Johnny Fontaine in the picture, they shot it in this alleyway at Paramount. It's affectionately known as the Godfather Alley. I walked through there every day on the way from the car park to my trailer, and every day I pinch myself and went, we're not in Kansas now, Dorothy!
No, we aren't. No, we aren't.
No, we're not.
Star Trek is known for its social commentary. Are there any episodes of Enterprise that made a statement or addressed something that you're proud of?
I always say that I think the best episode we did was Cogenitor.
Yes, I remember that one. Yeah,
and I was hardly in it. That's how generous I am, people. I think it's the best episode we wrote and that we produced. And Connor was fantastic, and LeVar Burton directed it with a beautiful light of touch, and it was just not just fantastic sci-fi, just really good, dramatic, episodic TV.
Made you think.
Sure did. It was very moving and thoughtful. Good stuff. We had a few of those, a handful, which, for any show that goes for nearly 100 episodes, there are only a handful that are just take it to the next level. And we did it.
Do you have any other favorites?
Well, of course, Shuttlepod one.
Shuttlepod, well, yes.
If I'm gonna, I was in that one. Terrific episode. It's a two-hander play, basically. Whenever I do look at it from time to time, and I've probably seen it half a dozen times since we shot it, I'm always amazed that the other people on the ship were in it so much. It didn't read that way.
Right.
It was a good episode. Those are the two that really stick out in my mind.
I know for fans, I think that's one of their favorites.
I believe so. Yeah. Just get some ripping of applause.
Yes.
Cheering effect cue here.
Did you bond with your castmates? Did you keep in touch with them?
Absolutely. Still very, very... I don't see Scott often, but we always go to his Christmas party. Just a nice man. And, Connor... We were very, very close. He moved away. We used to live, we were neighbours. You could throw a bread roll from our houses. But then he had a child, and schooling district thing, had to move out of Hollywood. And, I see him at cons a lot now. We talk on the phone a bit. Anthony and I still quite close and talk on the phone. And John, very much so. Don't see the girls. Haven't seen Jolene since the day we wrapped, actually. But yeah, we were a tight cast there on set. No shenanigans. Very happy, because a lot of times not so happy on episodic sets. Yeah. It can be.
So you guys put in heavy hours.
It can be a bit, long hours. It takes one idiot to make it.
Let's talk about the set a little bit. There's usually somebody that's a practical joker on any set of TV. Was there one on Enterprise?
Not especially. The one practical joke I always talk about is when Scott went to New York to do the upfronts to promote the show, I think probably at the end of the first season. And he did it wasn't the Ellen show then, it was the Rosie O'Donnell show. And they found an old commercial he'd made, but people don't know this particularly, but he came out of musical theatre, Scott Bakula. He can sing and dance. And he'd done a commercial, for money, for Canada Dry, and it was done, in leggings and headbands, and he was the Canada Dry man. It's as cheesy as it gets, let me tell you. It really is cheesy. So anyway, our line producer had seen that. He got a hold of a version of the commercial. Our art department made up Canada Dry bottles, because you can't buy them anymore. It's the green bottle.
Right.
We all got one of those. And anyway, they sent the PA out to Scott's trailer to go and get him to shoot the first scene on the bridge. And they'd wired up the commercial to all the screens. So Scott comes on all like being the captain. And he starts to do the scene and someone went, hit it! And the Canada Dry commercial comes up on every plasma on the bridge. That's great. You've never seen a grown man go, 0 to 60 in 3 seconds, puce red. And we all jump out from behind our consoles with the Canada Dry bottle doing the dance. Anthony and Linda Park can dance, and they were fantastic. I mean, it's like Beyonce and, and it was that was pretty funny stuff. We're somewhere.
We'll talk about commercials. Rumor has it of a Vidal Sassoon. Is that right?
Oh, Vidal Sassoon. Yeah. I called my flat in London Wash and Go out of respect. They bought it for me.
Yeah. Oh, nice.
It was 2 days' work, baby.
So you started the one that you were being in.
Land but effective.
And what's the before? Please tell me. Poltergeist the Legacy. Which season and which character, if you can remember?
I can't remember the character well. I think it was season 2. Yeah, that really was my first TV job out of LA. Yeah. That's a funny story. I was actually currying. I was being a courier, delivering stuff to offices. And I used to deliver to Paul Weber, was assisting, I can't even remember who the casting director was now, but he was in charge of pre-reading people for that part on Poltergeist. I got a pre-read. I went along there, and I was wearing a suit because the part demanded the stuff, and he only recognised me from being the courier. And he looked at me and went, why are you wearing a suit today? And I went, actually, I'm not here as a courier, I'm actually here as an actor. Oh, God, you see his eyes roll over. And we went in to read this thing, and I remember it was a lengthy, a lot of exposition. It was kind of a boring piece, but I breathed some life in it, and I even remember that he said to me, I want to cut page 3 and 4, and I went, I don't mean to be rude, mate, but I've really prepared this, and I can make it interesting. He really double rolled, gay casting. Right. Anyway, we got to about halfway to page 3, and he started to go. I got to the end, and he went, don't move. And he rushed out of the door, and he went and got, I can't remember who the head casting lady was, dragged her through, made me shake her hand. I got the job. I quit the courier job. That's how it went.
Oh, there you go.
He cast, and then he went on to cast me in Poltergeist. Not Poltergeist, Species.
Okay.
Years later.
And Buffy with the clown, being the clown, I think.
No, I didn't do clown in Buffy.
The head of the clown shop. In that episode.
In Buffy?
In Buffy.
No, my Buffy episode was when they tested her powers. and they brought in the worst vampire that they could possibly dream up, and I was his watcher. Not very good, because I turned away for a second, and I was bitten by the said vampire. And actually made Buffy history. They'd never morphed anyone into a vampire, and I was the first. And then me and Jeff Kober, who actually came on to guest star on our show a couple of times, we chased her around Glendale for a week and got our asses kicked.
So how many conventions are you doing here?
It varies nowadays. I would say I probably get, between 4 and a half a dozen.
Do you get to the East Coast as much? Or?
Gosh. I haven't been, I'm trying to think. I was in New Jersey recently.
I'm sorry to hear that. No, I'm just kidding.
Not in New Jersey. God bless the cons, they've taken me around the world. They really have. I was just back in New Zealand and Australia.
That's a great place to be.
Beautiful. Got engaged on the west coast of the Southern Islands.
Congratulations.
They cut away at sunrise. It was pretty beautiful.
Nice.
To a lake.
That's beautiful too.
So I love the cons. They are the extended arm of this fantastic job that just keeps on giving and giving. God bless these fans.
Well, that being said, so what's in the future for you?
Well, wait to hear on. Out loud. Okay, I'm waiting to hear. I am in consideration for The Hobbit. Peter Jackson's doing a back-to-back.
Yeah, absolutely.
I won't say any more than that. And there's also a TV show, series regular. I won't say any more about that. Okay. And just now, I'm waiting to hear about a couple of episodes of another show that's already in production. So, there's life after Trek.
There is. Great. Well, that sounds like you're busy then. Or you're just trying to keep busy?
Certainly. Actor through and through. For life. That's what I said when I started out in this crazy journey 27 years ago. For better or for worse.
Right.
I want to be an actor. It's worked out better than I imagined it might have done. So I'm still giving interviews.
There we are.
Which we're grateful for.
Well, we do have a real quick question from one of our fans who asked what?
On Twitter. Carter Cisco.
I half know this. How does it go?
No, it's not a joke.
Who do you want to have a father? No. How does it go?
I think that's all he said.
That's all he said. He just said those. Who would you choose?
The Carter Cisco.
God.
Yeah.
Of course.